This misplaced perception about people's individual right to make a decision that supersedes the societal safety.
Our Constitution is a charter of negative rights, and those negative rights play a crucial role in our lives. Under our Constitution, all individuals have the right to engage in activities to preserve and enhance their lives, as long as they refrain from engaging in activities which prevent others from doing the same. In other words, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is why we, as individual citizens, only have negative obligations placed on us by our Constitution. This must be so, by definition, in order to protect our individual rights. In an age of COVID, these individual rights are now under greater threat than ever. Only our Constitution and its faithful interpretation by the courts stand in the way of tyranny by the majority. Hi everyone, and welcome to Truth Over News with Jeff Carlson and Hans Manke.
Our Constitution is founded on certain inalienable rights, and as such is fixed and timeless. Inalienable rights are those rights which are so fundamental they are incapable of being taken away, denied, transferred, or surrendered to another. Inalienable rights are eternal. They were the same 1,000 years ago, and they will be the same 1,000 years from now. And these fundamental principles have taken on huge significance in a time of COVID restrictions, vaccine mandates, and Fauci fiefdoms.
We put together a good plan for how we were going to try and dampen down the spread of infection early on, thinking that that was accepted by everybody. And then the next day, the president saying, free Michigan, free Virginia. I didn't quite understand what the purpose of that was.
Fauci, who was arguing for increased government mandates in reaction to the pandemic, took specific issue with two Trump tweets. The first, a call for Virginia to be liberated, was Trump's response to then Governor of Virginia Ralph Northam wanting to shut gun stores in the early months of the pandemic. Shutting gun stores would have been a direct infringement of the Second Amendment. Trump was right, and Fauci was wrong. The second tweet that Fauci took issue with addressed Michigan's draconian stay-at-home orders, which veered into infringing the First Amendment's right of assembly, as well as other aspects of the Constitution, such as the 14th Amendment, dealing with the deprivation of life, liberty, or property. Once again, Trump was right and Fauci was wrong. But there's a larger issue at play, exemplified by a far more dangerous claim from Fauci that points to a widespread misconception about people's rights.
This misplaced perception about people's individual right to make a decision that supersedes the societal safety.
At the heart of Fauci's argument is the premise that he, acting as a manifestation of government, has the inherent right to dictate what individuals can and cannot do based on his perception of the larger societal good. History is replete with cautionary tales of what can happen when the rights of the individual are trampled by the majority.
A crucial aspect of the negative rights enumerated in the Bill of Rights is that they are specifically not subject to majority rule or tyranny by the majority. Congress cannot vote to abolish fundamental rights, no matter how much the majority would like to get rid of things like freedom of speech or freedom of assembly. In that way, the Bill of Rights should be seen as both a protection against government infringement of rights, as well as a protection against majority tyranny. If Congress were to pass a law that infringed on freedom of speech or any other fundamental right, such a law would be void, as it would be unconstitutional. The importance of this has been highlighted by restrictions put into place in countries that lack strong constitutional protections, where majority tyranny has become a reality. In Austria, for instance, the majority has decided that unvaccinated people can no longer take part in society. Police are carrying out spot checks of anyone seen outside their homes to ascertain their vaccination status. This fundamental infringement of individual liberty would likely not be possible in the United States, although Biden's vaccine mandates are currently testing the extent to which the Constitution, and by extension the courts, will allow any further infringements on our fundamental rights. The ever-present dangers from majority tyranny were recently illustrated when an opinion poll in the United Kingdom found that a sizable majority of citizens favored an Austrian-style lockdown, effectively segregating their society.
The risk of government overreach in times of national crisis is precisely why our Constitution is built on the notion of negative rights, providing inherent protections of the minority from majority rule. Negative rights stem from that most fundamental of rights, the right to life. The right to life conveys freedom for an individual to pursue actions which support, sustain, and enhance his life. It implies freedom from physical compulsion, coercion, or interference by others. We all have the right to live our own life. None are allowed to take it from us lawfully. All of our other rights spring from this most basic of rights. From the right to life comes right to property. And without property rights, no other rights are possible. A man who produces products while others dispose of his product is effectively an indentured servant. Control over the benefits of his labor has been lost to another. Notably, a right always conveys an action or a non-action on to another. And there are two types of rights, negative and positive. The distinction between the two is vital. A negative right is the requirement of abstention from an activity which violates another individual's rights. A negative right is the requirement of a non-action, which is why we are forbidden from acting in a manner which takes away the life of another. Positive rights are the opposite. They represent a requirement to engage in an activity to secure another individual's rights. Positive rights require action from us on behalf of another individual.
Many things have been put forward as universal rights. The right to an education, the right to healthcare, the right to housing, the right to a job, and even the right to paternity leave. But these demands fail to consider what these rights really imply. For the sake of argument, let's say someone wants to go back to college but is unable to pay for it. Under a free college system, paid tuition has become a positive right or an obligation that is placed onto others. As such, it is now someone else's obligation to pay for the tuition on behalf of the other. You cannot refuse to make the payment. To do so would be to infringe upon someone else's right to tuition.